Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is April Stevens from Ohio EPA. We'll be starting the webinar in about one moment. We've got some people logging on, so I'm going to give them another minute or so to log on. We'll start promptly at 10:30. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to Ohio EPA's 2023 Sustainability Conference. My name is April Stevens, and I'm with the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance at Ohio EPA. I will be moderating this morning's session, Opportunities in Energy Development, Understanding Your Role, where attendees will learn about rules, regulations, and rates governing energy infrastructure and how to access resources to create sustainable energy strategies that will help control energy costs in the neighborhood, business, and home. Ohio EPA's 2023 Sustainability Conference has 12 sessions over 3 days. Registration information and a conference agenda are located on the Ohio EPA's conference webpage, and we hope that you can join us for additional conference sessions. Please remember, it's never too late to sign up for the next conference session, and all sessions are being recorded for you to view later. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items to help you participate in this session. On this slide, you will see an example screenshot of your attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your computer desktop on the right-hand side of your screen. For this presentation, you are listening in using your computer audio. If you are having sound issues or if the slides stop advancing, please try refreshing your browser. If that doesn't work, try logging off and logging back in. If you continue to have issues, please let us know by submitting a question, and one of our behind-the-scenes team members will try to assist you. You can also submit questions to our presenters. To ask a question, click on the question mark icon on your attendee interface and type your question into the questions pane. You may send your questions in at any time during the webinar presentation today. We'll try our best to answer questions as they come in and during the Q&A portion of the webinar. But if we don't answer your question during the Q&A, we'll provide your questions to the presenters to follow up via email following today's session. You can click on the document icon on your attendee interface to view included handouts. We have included a PowerPoint or a PDF version of the PowerPoint slides that are being used today. So you may want to open those up. That way you can access any links that are shown on the screen, any of those hyperlinks. You'll be able to click through in the PDF version. This session is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording and a follow-up email along with a survey. The survey will also appear once the session ends. We value your feedback and would greatly appreciate it if you let us know how we're doing, or to let us know if there's anything we can do to further assist you. And with that, I'd like to introduce our presenters. Dale Arnold is Director of Energy, Utility, and Local Government Policy for the Ohio Farm Bureau Federation. Over the past 3 decades, he has managed education, outreach, and technical assistance projects addressing on-site, community, and utility-scale energy generation, transmission, and distribution issues. These efforts include power siting, pipeline and transmission line easements, biomass, wind and energy, interconnection, energy storage, and smart grid applications. Dale has provided leadership in energy aggregation and customer choice programs and is involved in efforts concerning alternative fuel production and transportation. Randy Monhenius started his career with the Farmers Home Administration in 1988, working in the single-family housing program and the farm program division. In 1996, he had the opportunity to join the business program section, which helps rural businesses obtain the financing necessary for business expansion and development. Since 2004, he has been involved with the Rural Energy for America program, helping rural small businesses and farmers fund renewable energy installations and energy efficiency improvements. He's currently serving as the Big Business Program Director for Rural Development in Ohio. And finally, Luke Sulfridge has served as SOPEC, that's the Sustainable Ohio Public Energy Council. We love acronyms here. He served as the Executive Director since 2019. In that time, SOPEC grown to become one of the largest community choice aggregation programs in Ohio. SOPEC is governed by 30 different government entities it serves. Approximately 1 terawatt of annual load is served by SOPEC, and 100% of its community CCA program are 100% green and are 100% predicted to save against their standard service offering, resulting in estimated tens of millions in savings. SOPEC is a council of governments serving a shared energy office focused on sustainability. Luke holds a BA in political science from Berea College and an MA in political science from Appalachian State University and an MS in emergency management from Eastern Kentucky University. And now I will turn it over to our first presenter, Dale Arnold.
Thank you very much, April, and good morning, everyone. So my name is Dale Arnold. I'm Director of the Energy, Utility, and Local Government Policy with the Ohio Farm Bureau. And first, let's just wait for my slides basically to come up, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I'll try clicking again. You should have control.
Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Thank you very much. I was a little concerned there. You know, hardening of the software is always a concern with some of these, but thank you very much. With regard to that, let's go to my first slide here, and I'm going to say this. Congratulations, welcome aboard. I'm glad you're here, because many folks are finding out that they are going to be involved in energy development in some way, shape, or form in the future. And what you learn working with your community stakeholders on one type of project, be it generation, transmission, or local distribution system upgrades, is going to serve you well when you see other types of projects coming forward. Energy is in a rapid stage of transition here during the first 2 decades of the 21st century. As a matter of fact, development is much more intense, much more complex, much more active and vital now than it was when many of these systems, generation, transmission, local distribution, came online during this time in the 20th century. Many of our folks and the community stakeholders I work with are taking a look at coal and other types of generation being retired. You're taking a look at natural gas-fired turbine generation, wind, solar, biomass. You're taking a look also at energy storage facilities that are being incorporated in the systems, upgrades to electric transmission infrastructure, natural gas pipeline systems. Also taking a look at on-site systems that you might be able to use with regard to controlling your energy costs going forward. A number of things are happening, and we all need to be involved in that particular process. I also like to show people this. When you talk about local electricity isn't necessarily just your neighborhood or county or corner of the state. It's actually part of a 14-state system. Ohio and its utilities, investor-owned, municipal, as well as cooperative, all belong on what's called the PJM interconnection system. PJM stands for Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland Interconnection Network. It's called PJM because that's where this system started. This collection of transmission line assets, generation assets, connections to local distribution companies. That's where the system started during the 20th century and expanded from there. Our electric companies basically do a lot of collaboration, a lot of marketing, a lot of delivery, a lot of logistics to ensure that energy supplies are always there, energy supplies are available, and consequently, all systems are up and functional in the PJM system at all times. I work with a lot of farmers, and farmers are involved in commodity-intensive business. Corn, wheat, beans are all sold with regard to calls, puts, collars, futures contracts, trade arbitration, delivery points, everything indexed from the local grain elevator where you make a delivery into the Chicago Board of Trade or Mercantile Exchange. That system has helped our farmers for over a century. Electricity, as well as natural gas and many petroleum derivatives, are commodities too. calls, puts, collars, futures contracts, prices determined with regard to supply and demand over time. Many of the systems farmers use for corn, wheat, and beans are the same systems that you use for energy. Everything indexed from a local distribution or a local delivery point to the New York Mercantile Exchange, where many of those have been traded for over a century too. Understanding this relationship, understanding how energy is marketed, delivered, how it goes through a number of different systems, how to act in that system, react in that system, work with planning on a number of particular levels is huge. And one thing a number of folks, especially in local communities, need to understand and need to appreciate as they talk about projects in their neighborhoods. I also show people this too. As I said before, farmers work in a very commodity intensive business. These are actual technical analysis charts for natural gas, electric generation, and crude oil. A lot of farmers say, you know, those will look a lot like my corn, wheat, and bean charts at home. And yes, they are, because those are tracing different prices over time. It's interesting, you're also hearing a lot about what's called decoupling or deregulation or choice. Many of those particular options and systems and processes have been in place since before 2000. Many folks are being able to use that. Governments, industries, consumer groups, individual consumers with regard to that. Energy, the generation or the natural gas supply, is a commodity itself. And energy service providers, well beyond basically the public utilities, which used to do it in the 20th century, energy service providers create merchant plant relationships or merchant plant functions to provide those particular commodities going forward. The vast majority of energy generation infrastructure, especially with electricity, are merchant plant functions. They are basically creating generation. They are delivering it through long-term power delivery contracts. Prices determined with regard to supply, demand over time. Because it's a merchant function, it's not a vital services plant type of arrangement. Eminent domain provisions for development of those assets, development of those particular facilities, eminent domain provisions do not apply, which means the ability for community stakeholders, consumers, local governments, state and federal governments under regulatory authority, all basically have the ability to be at the table, advocate their position, ask pressing questions, take a look at evidence, and be involved in the process. One thing too that people are taking a look at, as I said before, you're involved in several different processes now, and what you learn working with those projects in your local community are going to benefit you when you see other types of projects, programs, benefits, options come to your communities in the future. When we talk about generation, there are several different generation sources. One is called on-site, and for electricity, that's kilowatt level, like you see with regard to rooftop solar or backyard solar and wind, up to around 4.9 megawatts. On-site generation is a generation facility or choice or a program or a installation behind the meter. It serves an individual customer. Governance with regard to those are with an effective interconnection agreement between that individual consumer and the public utility. Those local interconnection agreements and their terms and conditions are all a utility tariff. They're approved by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. They're all part of the particular process. They establish the relationship. They establish the security, the technical requirements, the net metering, everything with regard to that. So that's where governance on those systems come from. Also too, when you're talking about solar or other types of systems, there's no such thing as an off-the-rack on-site generation system. You still need to work with your utilities. and competent service providers to take a look at what's called your load profile. How do you use electricity? What is your usage pattern over a series of days, months, and years? Creating a system which best reflects and accommodates your individual energy usage needs, which could be as unique as a fingerprint, is huge. The vast majority, if not all, on-site generation systems still need to be uniquely designed with that individual customer in mind. On the other end of the scale, we have what's called utility scale generation. And when you're talking about projects and facilities that are rated at over 50 megawatts, the Ohio Power Siting Board is the governing body for those in Ohio. The only exception is if it is an economically significant wind farm, because of its size, it starts at 5 megawatts. But all other energy technologies, 50 megawatts and above. The Ohio Power Siting Board, I tell people this, that's part of the Public Utilities Commission since the 1960s, who take a look at, do the technical evaluations, the permitting, the enforcement, the retirement, the tariff provisions, a number of things having to do with that type of generation. You might also think of them as almost like a court of law, because administrative law judges, the permits themselves are considered evidence. Each permit is given a docket number, just like you see in the Court of Common Pleas. Evidence basically is submitted. As a matter of fact, the permit itself is considered evidence, matter of public record, the ability for individual consumers, neighborhood groups, local governments, and others to file a motion to intervene to be accepted as a party of record in those proceedings, to negotiate, advocate, do things going forward is huge. We're showing folks how to use that particular system and be involved in that particular process. But in Ohio, to make a long story short, the Ohio Power Siting Board is that one-stop shop, that one umbrella organization which combines all permits, programs, procedures for power generation and for permitting of power generation at that particular level. And there are opportunities for individual consumers, neighborhood groups, local governments to be involved in that process. We have another point, what's in the middle? You're hearing a lot about, quote, community scale generation, and that's between 5 and 49.9 megawatts. You're hearing a lot about legislative initiatives over the last couple of years. You're hearing a lot of things with regard to solar, where some companies want to come in, establish different programs and projects, many at a local level, and allow people to subscribe to receive benefit from those systems. Still a lot of questions though. Still a lot of things to be taking a look at. I hear a lot of questions with regard to it. As a matter of fact, in current legislation with House Bill 197, Farm Bureau is an interested party in those proceedings. There are benefits there. There's also questions with regard to governance, power siting, consumer protection, retirement and repair, remediation, bonding. A number of things have to there. Standard interconnection into a local distribution circuit. A number of technical, a number of governance, and other requirements need to be seen, and we welcome folks to be involved in those discussions as those programs, processes, and legislation goes forward. Things to think about. Let's take a look at here too. Local access to energy supplies generation. Again, on-site generation. We've talked basically about that. You have the ability to do that with an on-site system that you have designed to meet your particular needs behind the meter. Government aggregation. We have a number of folks, and Luke is going to be talking to you about that later down the line. Local governments have the ability to facilitate energy supply and delivery contracts at the community level in their jurisdictions, counties, townships, municipalities, working basically negotiation, economies of scale to have generation and natural gas supply contracts. Many folks are taking a look with regard to that. Individual consumers have the opportunity to participate. They also have the ability to not participate, easy opt-out features. They still have the ability to individually shop for their particular energy needs for their home, farm, business. And so that system is there. And consequently, in aggregation, the service providers are all Public Utilities Commission CRES, that's Certified Retail Electric Service Providers. They have the ability, they have the license, they have the permit, and they're able to show the Public Utilities Commission for that accreditation that they have the ability to market, deliver into the local distribution system through the public utility, the ability to do that the same as the utility. And so with aggregation, you have for energy supply, the same convenience, the same ability, the same standards, the same security as getting electricity directly from your utility. And it's been that way for over 20 years. Utility customer choice. Again, as I said, individual consumers, residential, small business, industrial, have the ability to do that, taking a look at their individual needs and contracting with a service provider, PUCO CRES approved, to be able to do that. A good place to start those studies and do comparative shopping is with the PUCO apples to apples sections of their website, which means energy supplies. There's a number of things you can do, examine, to take a look at finding a supply scenario which best fits your needs. Local input and community planning is still huge. You're hearing a lot about different generation assets coming in. I'm sitting in Cambridge, Ohio right now, and just got done doing a conference here live where we're talking about natural gas fire turbine generation. We're talking about wind, solar, biomass, fuel cell, on-site, aggregation, customer choice, a number of things there. You're going to be seeing a number of plans and projects come down the line. Are they sustainable? Do they address a number of environmental, economic, and social development targets simultaneously? Taking a look at how energy is going to be used, marketed, creating a balance at a local, a regional, a PJM level along those particular areas. Those are being explored, and we need to be part of those discussions. Resilience. Will we have systems that are able to adapt to a number of changing conditions? Will they be able to withstand recovering for disruptions and different things, weather-related, technical developments, national emergencies? Will the systems that we have in place, working with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, working with PJM Interconnection, working with the Public Utilities Commission, local government leaders, asking those questions, being involved in those workshops, participating in programs, researching, is all part of this particular process too. Also, you're going to be hearing more about resource adequacy. As I said, we are transitioning from one set of generation, transmission, and distribution systems in the 20th century to newer ones. As a matter of fact, many of those facilities are going to be farther out into the transmission and distribution circuits. You're no longer going to be thinking about getting your energy from a very, very large centralized facility a few hundred miles away. Those systems will be very much within your part of the system and very much within your part of the community. We're transitioning from 20th century technology to 21st century technology. What kind of speed needs to be done with regard to that? How are we going to make sure that we're doing this transition in such a way as that we're going to have power generation to meet a number of particular needs going forward? Are we going to see in PJM or in Ohio what happened in ERCOT or our friends and neighbors in Texas a few years ago? Probably not, because the system is structured differently, but those are questions that need to be examined, need to be discussed, need to be understood. Making sure this transition works for all of us and we have supply at all times to make sure that heating, cooling, lighting is done safely, efficiently, effectively, long-term. Last but not least, congratulations, welcome aboard. I'm glad you're here. Discussion is going forward. We need to take a look at being involved at the table, and who will be at that table with us? Developers of projects, government and regulatory agencies at the township, municipal, county, state, in some cases the federal level will be there. Economic development and regional development authorities will be there, and community stakeholder groups were there. I show and help people in Farm Bureau be involved at the table. We all have issues and concerns, and rightfully so. We all need to be at the table discussing those. As a matter of fact, I remember a few decades back when we're talking about customer choice, when we're talking about community aggregation, when we're talking about a number of programs my two other colleagues on the panel will be talking about, those were all part of the process and part of discussions too. Those discussions need to continue and will continue. And I need to tell you this, there needs to be a balance there. All concerns need to be addressed and all concerns need to be heard. Or as I tell our folks in Farm Bureau, if you're not at the table advocating your position, asking pressing questions, sharing your concerns, needs, and ability to collaborate, you will be part of the menu. Welcome to Energy Development. Look forward to talking to a number of you and different things going forward. And I'd like to turn this over to my colleague, Randy Monhemius with USDA. Randy?
Thank you, Dale. I think I should get control of the slides here soon. Is that correct?
You should have them now, Randy. Just if you try to click on the screen, you should be able to.
There we go. All right, thank you very much. Dale, I appreciate all the information. My presentation is looking at how to finance some of these opportunities that Dale had discussed. I am with the USDA Rural Development, and rural development has a number of different programs. We have single-family housing, we have multifamily housing, community facilities programs, business programs. We also have a sister agency called Rural Utility Service, which has a number of energy programs related there too. Specifically, I'm going to target the energy programs that I administer here within my office here in Columbus. There's a number of different programs that I'll try to address today. Basically, food for thought is what we're looking at. There's a number of different programs, lots of information that will be presented. These slides will certainly be available later on. And if you have any questions regarding any of these programs or any of the assistance that's provided by our agency, reach out to me. My contact information is the last slide that I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or direct you in to the correct person within our agency that can help you with these questions. Briefly, these are the programs that I'm going to try to address: the Rural Energy for America program, Advanced Biofuel Payment Program, the Biorefinery Assistance Program, Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program, Energy Audit, the Rural Energy for America Program Technical Assistance Grant, and the last one we have is the Value Added Grant. I have a couple slides on each one of these programs, and like I said, I don't expect you to know everything about this, but give you some food for thought for what our agency can do for your particular project. The first program we have, and probably our most popular program right now, is the Rural Energy for America program. This is a grant. It also has a loan guarantee component to it that can provide grants to small rural for-profit businesses or agricultural producers, allows them to install a renewable energy system or make energy efficiency improvements to their operations. The business has to be located in a rural area, and what we define as rural is outside of the major metropolitan areas of the state of Ohio. So, outside of Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Columbus, Cincinnati, and those suburbs, out into the rural parts of the state. The business must be a small business, and that definition is based on the Small Business Administration definition of what a small business is. Generally, for manufacturing, 500 employees and fewer is considered to be a small business. Agricultural producers, if you have an agricultural production and you are raising crops or livestock anywhere throughout the state and you're selling those into the market, as long as you are and can be classified as an agricultural producer by our regulations, you can be in both an urban or a rural setting. This program cannot help with any type of residential improvements or in-home businesses, so we have to take that out of the equation, but certainly any other rural, small, for-profit business or an agricultural producer, we can help with this program. As I mentioned, this is a grant not to exceed 50% of the project cost. The renewable energy maximum is $1 million. The energy efficiency improvement maximum is $500,000. The minimum grant is $1,500, and for fiscal year 23, which we're just finishing up, and fiscal year 24, which starts October 1st, we have $1 billion available for this program nationwide. Here in Ohio, we certainly want to get our portion of that, but keep that in mind. These are fairly large grants for renewable energy or energy efficiency improvement projects here in Ohio, in the rural parts of Ohio. These are quarterly application and competition type of programs. So the next deadline, of course, is the end of this month. Then we get into 12/31/23, 3/31/24, and so forth until the end of the fiscal year of 2024. This is a listing of the different types of renewable energy and energy efficiency improvements that can be considered through this program. Biomass, biofuel, bioenergy. So we're talking about, biodiesel, possibly some ethanol, as long as it's considered to be a small business. We can look at pellet mills, anaerobic digestion systems, geothermal, solar is by far the most popular type of renewable energy system that we've installed or helped to install. We can also look at energy efficiency improvements. We can look at HVAC systems, lighting, electric motor replacements. Anything that is documented within an energy audit or an energy assessment can be considered as part of these project costs. As I mentioned before, we also have a loan guarantee program in conjunction with the grant. So we can look at a grant only, we can look at a grant and loan guarantee, or we can look at a loan guarantee specifically for a project. The maximum on this is $25 million. This is an 80% guarantee to a financial institution that provides the loan to the business. It is a guarantee against loss, so it reduces the bank's risk in a project, allows them, it really encourages them to be involved in a project because of that reduced loss, and as a result, hopefully they can provide the business better rates and better terms as a result of our loan guarantee. And again, plenty of funding is available on this. Over $1 billion is available for this program each and every year. I have some examples here of projects that we have helped finance in the past. Again, this is just a small solar photovoltaic system. 35 kW system, provides about 45,000 kilowatt hours annually, and it replaced 100% of this business's annual energy consumption. Total project cost was about $80,000. We provided a grant of just under $40,000, again, 50% of the project cost. And so the recipient had a contribution into this program of, again, $40,000. As I mentioned, energy efficiency improvement projects. This was a grocery store with some improvements that we had helped with their lighting. They replaced their entire fluorescent system with energy efficient LED lighting. The reduced energy consumption by more than 32%. Again, lower cost, lower energy costs, lower maintenance costs, and so forth. Again, we provided a grant of 50% of that project cost. This is another energy efficiency improvement project. It was a warehousing business that we provided them with a grant to replace their lighting system within the facility. Again, it reduced their energy consumption by more than 70%. Payback was very quick. And again, we provided them a grant of just under $70,000 for a $140,000 project. The last example I have is a wood biomass gasification boiler. This was a greenhouse that we helped with replacing their propane heating system with a biomass-fired boiler. The payback was very quick, 3 years. Total purchase price on this was just under $32,000, and again, our grant was half of that amount. It eliminated all of their propane. They used firewood to heat their greenhouse, and as a result of this system, they were able to save a substantial amount of cost through the replacement of the propane and the 6,500 gallons of propane they used annually with with split firewood. This could have even been a pellet fired boiler as well. We also have this advanced biofuel payment program. This is a payment program that looks specifically to increase the production of advanced biofuels. Again, biodiesel, biomass pellets, anaerobic digestion, ethanol, as long as it's not from corn kernel starch, so we can look at possibly cellulosic ethanol production through this program. This is a program that you apply for in October, and then we look at the actual production for the following year and reimburse you for the amount of production that you had during that time frame. So we do make quarterly payments to the producer to help offset some costs. Biorefinery Assistance Program, again, this is a loan guarantee program, loan guarantees of up to $250 million for advanced biofuel production. This is, again, a loan guarantee to banks, credit unions, farm credit, to help help customers install advanced biofuel systems. And again, a good example of that would be cellulosic ethanol production, could be using algae in the production of fuels, anything that is not typical for, that is just on the start of that commercialization. That's really what we look for on this program. Again, loan guarantees up to $250 million, and this could cover up to 80% of a project cost. Higher Blends Infrastructure Incentive Program, also known as HBIP. Of course, we have to have our own acronyms. This is a grant, cost share grant of up to 75% of a project cost for the installation of higher fuel blends. So we're looking at fuel blends for ethanol of 15% or higher, biodiesel of B20 or higher, and basically we can look at providing assistance to convenience stores, fueling stations, fuel distribution facilities that are willing to install this type of infrastructure within their facility. So if we have a convenience store wanting to install E15, this can help them pay for pumps, tanks, plumbing, lines, and so forth. So it's a very good program to help increase the use of ethanol in the marketplace. The Energy Audit and Renewable Energy Development Assistance Grant. So this is, we're trying to help get energy audits completed for small rural businesses and agriculture producers. and also looking at renewable energy development assistance, so solar assessments. Solar assessments and energy audits, so that's really what this program is designed to do. We provide assistance to a third party. They in turn provide energy audits and renewable energy development assistance, solar assessments to farmers, and then those farmers can take that information and continue on through our Rural Energy for America program, that implementation grant, where they can get 50% of the project costs covered. And in addition to that, we have this Rural Energy for America Technical Assistance Grant, which is a grant that we can provide to a third party to help farmers and rural small for-profit businesses write the grants to apply to the REAP program. So if you have a project out there that you're considering, say it is a solar project on a farm, and you wish to apply to the Rural Energy for America program for assistance in building that system, we have these grants available to write that grant for the customer and then move that into the implementation side of the program. Last program I'm going to cover is the Value Added Producer Grant. This is a grant that we can provide to a farmer who wants to add value to the products that they raise on the farm. Planning grants of $75,000, working capital grants of up to $250,000. How this ties into energy is really this last statement. We can use these funds to complete feasibility studies for possibly an anaerobic digestion system or a wind system or some type of energy generation project on the farm. If a feasibility study is needed, we can look at this value-added producer grant to pay for those costs. In addition to those energy-related items, we can also look at, first two items here is a working capital grant for the expansion of markets for freezer beef. Another example might be a planning grant for a farm who wants to take fruits raised on the farm, create jams, jellies, and so forth with that. So it is a working capital grant that can pay for labor, inputs, jars, lids, labels, that type of thing that can help that farmer create a product that they can sell into the market. In terms of energy assistance, I covered 7 programs there. They're very diverse in terms of what we can help with and what we can do. The Rural Energy for America program is probably the most sought after program right now because it is a grant of up to 50%. It is directed to small businesses and agricultural producers, so it is very limited. This is probably the website that I refer inquiries to if they're looking for assistance with their home heating, if they're looking for additional assistance on insulation, if it is in an urban setting, communities, if they're looking for a funding source to help them install maybe a renewable energy system that is not within an eligible territory for our programs. The database of state incentives for renewables and efficiency is probably the most sought after website to provide that type of assistance. It is a searchable website that does provide a good outline of the assistance that is available for energy efficiency improvement projects and renewables. And this is my last slide. This is all of our contacts along with a couple links. My contact information is there at the bottom. Certainly, if you have questions regarding any of the programs that we have available, as I mentioned, single-family housing, community facilities, business programs, energy programs. We have a whole host of various programs that can help develop that community. Please reach out to any of us and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And with that, I will turn this over to Luke. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little about SOPEC and a lot about aggregation and actually expand on what the previous 2 speakers talked about in some sectors. So here's some fun items we'll come back to at the end. Please ask questions if you have any questions about those. SOPEC is a council of governments. We are formed under state revised code. I guess take a step back, as Dale alluded to, Ohio is a deregulated energy market. And with that, there's some special features with the Ohio markets that allow us to do some really great things as it relates to free markets and our ability to access renewable energy assets through those markets accordingly. So you can shop as an individual for power in Ohio, you can shop as a community, or if you so choose, a group of communities can join together to set a new default for the supply component on their electricity bill. So we help manage that. We're going to talk about electricity primarily today. As a public agency, running it this way through a council of governments means we're also subject to public audits, we're a public entity, and we're governed by the communities we serve. So as of today, we have 30 different member entities. That number changes almost weekly, which is fantastic, but we're also built to share efficiencies of resources that would make sense for an individual community to be able to support on their own, but collectively, especially in our smaller communities, but also our large communities, enables them to have access to a variety of resources. We have 2 different governing bodies to make sure that participation is happening. We are statewide as an organization. Again, we're a council of governments. This is of the individual governments choosing to join in with us. We started in Southeast Ohio, so a very heavy footprint there, but also include communities the size of Dayton or Cleveland. So we're very eager to continue helping more communities achieve their goals with us. And collectively, that's about 1 terawatt hour of annual load that we're providing through an aggregation program. So there's a lot of collective buying power that comes with that. There's a lot of creative energies that come with that, both from the members themselves and local governments when we convene, but then also the staff support we can do for things like pursuing grants collectively for regional projects, or going down very deep analysis for a given technical project. With that, we have a whole team of experts. This is actually only about half the list of folks. If you come back to us in about 2 weeks, we are expanding, but everything from a physicist to really great experts on writing grants to attorneys that can help you with those really thorny legal issues as you're looking at what's possible and how to get there. We also have AP Energy as a partner. So AP Energy operates as what's called a CREST provider. So they enable us to access supply markets for us to be able to provide to our communities. We also think it's important as we're looking at energy really holistically at what sustainability means, and looking at the sustainability conversation as historic preservation. The greenest building often is the one that can be rebuilt or repurposed. So we're very active with local chambers, local Heritage Ohio or Main Street programs, then also regional coalitions. It's important as we're working on PJM and stuff that affects the entire Mid-Atlantic, that we're part of that conversation, to Dale's point earlier, that we need a seat at the table. So collectively, whether we're a small village or cities, we all share a seat at the table, some of these bigger regional efforts as well. Here's a picture of what the grid looks like. PJM, where we are located, calls themselves the largest machine in the world. So those lines and wires all connect together to make a very sophisticated machine. For better or worse, aggregation as a tool does not, at present, impact the reliability of the grid. So we have opportunities down the road for generation that we can do more local that may have a positive impact. But for lines and wires, that is a separate conversation. This is purely on the supply side from a markets-based approach for deploying renewable assets. Dale talked about this quite a bit, so I'm not going to go a whole lot into what PJM is, but one analogy I like to use is air traffic control meets Wall Street. So these folks are responsible for making sure the lights stay on or the heat stays on, importantly in Ohio. But they also are responsible for creating market-based approach to make sure that there's compensation as all the interplay happens with different power providers dispatching power at a large scale, making sure those lines and wires are reliable as we expect them to be. Community choice aggregation as a tool, I mentioned, is not uniquely to Ohio. Ohio has pushed it further than some other states as our ability to access it. We have some of the largest programs in the country. And so it's great to know we're part of a larger movement nationwide of folks taking control of their energy supply. Again, having a deregulated market, but then also taking that step further that you can have a community level control of a alternative default offering, and then what the utilities might offer on their own. So those programs are still available from the utility standard offer. The majority of programs we see in Ohio are opt-out. So that means the new default is the program for the folks who've never shopped or have not requested to be on a do not aggregate list. And for many programs, and I'd encourage folks, if you have a program or you're looking at launching one, to make not having an early termination fee part of your program offering as well, to give the maximum flexibility for residents to continue having shopping options. So there is a window of time when folks can opt out for a program to not be enrolled in it. With our program and many others, there's also what's called, beyond that 21-day window, we do not charge an early termination fee. So just one of those things you should look for if you're looking into launching a program. We also, again, want to reiterate, this is just the generation components. And aggregation itself is below certain thresholds, so 700,000 kilowatt hours in a given year. So for the majority of small businesses and almost every home, I would expect, aggregation is qualified, but for large industrial users, they have a different pathway towards securing energy assets that doesn't fall within the aggregation thresholds. There are about 400 different communities in Ohio that have aggregated. Some have chosen to do natural gas, some have chosen to do electricity. I'd say electricity is probably more popular, but there's a combination of communities that have done one or the other. But just showing that this concept has been around more than 2 decades since Ohio was deregulated as an energy market. So not new, but we're learning new things as we find new ways to use aggregation for things particularly like sustainability. I mentioned some of the folks who couldn't participate. Those are large industrial customers, folks who are in the PIP program, which is the payment income percentage plan. So those folks typically would be low income that have requested to be on that program. Folks who shop for power on their own. So if you have an existing contract, this should not impact a given contract you already have with an independent broker, or if you've shopped again on your own. As about 1/3 of customers do across the state of Ohio. And I guess I should also clarify that aggregation is limited to investor-owned utility territory. So if you're in a rural electric cooperative or a municipal electric supply, you wouldn't typically be eligible for an aggregation program. And then again, anybody who opts out for the program or goes to the PUCO's website and requests to be put on a permanent do not aggregate list. This is our process, but it's very similar. PUCO requirements require you to go file a plan of operation and governance. If you go with a group like SOPEC, where we're part of a larger group, we work with you on legislation, work with you on the filings, and that's something an individual community doesn't have to handle on their own. We've also chosen as a policy objective, in great dialogue with our communities, to make 100% green as our default option. We also have a brown step-down option for individuals within a given program that don't want to participate in green power. But we have been very successful in demonstrating that you can do both savings and have green power deployed. In fact, the city of Dayton saved roughly, last supply year, roughly $11 million in estimated savings across all their households. And Cleveland is going to see much more than that this year through their program. So there's a lot of potential for folks through smart and careful deliberations on when to enter the market and when to buy power. There are definitely opportunities to save money while integrating green power objectives into the program as well. SOPEC itself, we also include community grants as part of our program design. So for communities that so choose to, inside the program itself, there's opportunity for us to provide local grants, which enables them to provide local matches for much bigger grants. So we've had a lot of success and excitement around some of those images you saw at the beginning, and providing a local match that is leveraged to do much larger things, which is a lot of fun to see those savings permanently part of the ecosystem of a community. There's also a lot of potential through aggregation programs to do things like solar RFPs. So getting municipal water plants together to collectively do an RFP for securing solar assets on site behind the meter resources. So a lot of opportunities to be very creative with aggregation programs and be another option for communities and residents to do great work. Some examples of our community grants recently. We have a solar system on what we believe to be the first net zero EMS station in the state of Ohio. Another fun fact about that particular building, I think the Athens County Commissioners would be glad to talk more about it, but the savings from the building HVAC, downsizing it based on smart design of the building itself, actually paid for them to do thicker walls and tape the seams and do some of those really smart, but sometimes really common sense engineering things. So we help them with the solar systems or further that cause. We also, with a lot of other partners helping us apply for a grant, we're able to secure local funding for the first rural EV transit bus in the state of Ohio. So you'll see Athens decorated there with one of the other local nonprofits to your right. But a lot of bread and butter LED savings, a lot of stuff that pays for itself really quickly. Recent months, we paid for a new variable flow pump on a local swimming pool that's going to permanently save that community money. So lot of opportunities to do really great work, and aggregation can be a really great tool to help provide the technical expertise and resources for that. Public EV chargers, another major need in Ohio, but also something we're very active in, helping secure new funds. So our communities, large and small, have robust opportunities to literally be on the map, or to help provide the next wave of opportunities for folks that want to come visit their community or already live and work there and want to be part of the electric vehicle economy themselves. Another fun example, first EV police car in the state of Ohio is in Logan. We have a lot of water plants that we are either in the process of helping add solar or have added solar. I'll highlight Athens here again. They now have battery backup on their water plants, as well as solar on their sewer plant and the water plant. Very proud of them for that. And sometimes out of the box. So sometimes it's a regional project. We have a portion of our grants that we put towards regional projects. So in the case of the Big Bailey trail system or mining, which is ORCA, 88 miles of mountain bike trails going in Southeast Ohio. And with that, we secured a grant, or provided a grant a few years ago for them to do the planning work for a much larger Appalachian Regional Commission grant to do an analysis on existing coal mining infrastructure buildings as part of that heritage tourism moving forward. So again, sustainability for us is very broad, and that does include a broader ecosystem of economy moving forward. Renewable energy for us, we particularly are very interested in wind and solar, but some of our communities have also been able to access hydro as well. In the interest of time, I'll skip through these a little bit, but I guess I'll talk about renewable energy certificates. These are an important tool. And so markets for renewable energy are really divided, or for energy rather, are divided in two different buckets. One is for the energy itself, and it's all put into one giant bucket and folks secure. But separated from that is the value of the renewable attributes. And there's a tradable market for that. And so communities, or sometimes industries or private companies, access renewable energy certificates to meet their sustainability goals and help provide a pathway supporting new generation as it comes online. So SOPEC utilizes what's called Green E certified RECs to provide that power. And those are very strict for the standards, what they'll allow in those. So there are different types of RECs. That's something I would encourage you to reach out to experts to find out specifically what meets your values as a community or a business. But we found Green E is largely thought to be the gold standard for the highest and most strictest requirements for that. With that, I have a quick video. I'm not sure it's going to work, so we may skip over that. But there is a great video that the US EPA has. You can find it on YouTube. It goes into detail. Oh, maybe it's going to work for us. If not, we can skip over that. It's all right. So the EPA, I would encourage you to look at this. It's about a 3-minute video, but it really goes into detail from the EPA, much more eloquently than I can describe concisely on how RECs work and the value proposition they provide. I will say that RECs are not the final goal for many of our communities. We're looking at RECs as being a bridge resource until a lot of our communities have direct access to renewables that fit their own priorities and values. So RECs are going to be an important tool moving forward, have been for quite a while, but one of a composite option that many communities in Ohio are leveraging at present. With that, I mentioned the Green E certified RECs. They meet the criteria for the US EPA's Green Power Partnership Awards. So there are currently 20 of those in Ohio. We do proudly represent all 20 of those communities. So if you want to learn how to do that, we'd be happy to talk to you. It does come with a really great set of signs for your village to proudly proclaim that your community is now 100% sourced, or at least above the threshold for what's required. Actually, Green E does not require 100%, but there are a minimum criteria for that. We've chosen for our ag program to be 100% by default, and that has allowed us to have enough load to be qualified for these programs. So very proud of our communities for doing that. Another community you should be familiar with, and this is not uniquely SOPEC, but SolSmart is another policy tool that's available. So many of our communities have done this. Many in Central Ohio have also taken advantage of this. But it's getting your policy environment ready for solar development. So whether it's rooftop or large scale, having those conversations up front, being intentional in the process, so permits and fees, making sure that it fits your values as a community. So SolSmart has a criteria and different levels of awards that you can achieve to show that you are a solar-ready community. We as an organization, I'm going to skip over this pretty fast as well, but we've been very active in solar. One thing I will highlight, one of the programs that Randy spoke on a few minutes ago is the USDA RETA program that we are an active grantee of. I say that because at no cost, small businesses across the state of Ohio and ag producers is one of those, can access the ability to have a solar assessment statewide. while you fitting the rural criteria. So there are some caveats there, but a large portion geographically state qualifies for this program. So if you have an interest in having somebody who is neutral, not trying to sell you something, we'll gladly do a quick analysis with our consultants who are not installing solar themselves. So they truly do give you an objective analysis of what it would cost, what's possible, and you can use that information to possibly apply for one of the other grants that Randy was describing. So that's a great program that is of no cost other than a little bit of your time to tap into. So I encourage everyone that has an interest as a small business to reach out to us on that front. Again, I just want to highlight this, not just only to highlight SOPEC. It's not just SOPEC doing this, but just to conceptually show that you really can have green power in Ohio. And at present, all of SOPEC's communities are at least in double-digit savings, while also experiencing 100% green power as the default offering. So from a policy standpoint, it's very market dependent, very timing dependent on watching the markets, but there are very real tangible examples. And again, for our communities, all of our communities at present are under market compared to the standard service offer, I should say. So each utility, whether it's Duke or AES or the First Energy affiliates or AP Ohio, they have a standard service offer. So we watch those prices very closely, and we would try to be an alternative to that, and ideally less than their price while also being green. So again, as your individual communities pursue their goals, this is a very real, tangible thing that we have very real examples of happening right now. And again, not only SOPEC, but we're very proud of what we've been able to achieve for our residents and our communities. So here's a little more details and process. I'll skip over that, but essentially you've got to get about 2 months to be able to online a program once it's been authorized both by the voters and by a given community to set up a program through a plan of operation and governance. So it's a couple months to get a program onboarded, but is definitely worth it, and something we're very happy to talk to anybody about. And there's my contact info, and I think we're right on time for questions, so I'll turn it back over.
Great. Thank you so much, Luke, Randy, and Dale. Those were excellent presentations. There was a lot of information in there. And we do have quite a bit of time for questions. So please continue to submit your questions into the question pane for our attendees, or for our presenters. Like I said, we still have another half hour of time. So please send those in, and we'll get to answering them here live with our panelists. I'm going to kick it off. I got a question. I'm going to start with Randy. The programs that you mentioned, a lot of these USDA rural development programs are offered to communities that are designated as rural areas. How would a community or a neighborhood or a resident find out if they are in a rural area?
Thank you for the question. We do have a mapping system that if you go to the website for rural development, there is a mapping system that we have specifically that addresses what is considered to be a rural area and what is not. So on the website, there is under our business programs, there is a map that you can use. Type in your address and it'll tell you whether or not that location is eligible. If you need to, please reach out to me, give me your address, and I can do that research and let you know specifically what is considered to be rural, for whether or not your location is rural and eligible for our programs.
Fantastic. And like you mentioned, it's a little more than you would think. It's mostly just, anything that's just outside of those urban areas, correct? I think a lot of maybe some of the further suburbs would think that they're more urban than rural, but the way the mapping works, they may be considered rural, correct?
That is correct, yeah. So we can be very close to a urbanized area and still be considered rural. Keep in mind that we're looking at populations of 50,000 and greater as being an urban area, and those suburbs of those cities. So like I mentioned, Cleveland and its suburbs, Akron, Canton, Columbus and the suburbs. But once you get into, areas like Lancaster or Mansfield or any of those types of cities, those are all considered to be eligible. So you can get up to fairly sizable communities and still be eligible for our programs.
Wonderful. And I'm going to stick with you for one more minute here because I got another question. You also mentioned that the assistance that you guys offer is mainly to for-profit businesses in these rural areas. Do you know of any, or do you have programs, or do you know of any that would be available for nonprofit entities?
Unfortunately, nonprofits and municipalities are not eligible through our Rural Energy for America program. So that has to be a for-profit business or an agriculture producer. So you got to meet those two criteria, one of those two criteria, to be eligible. The last slide that I provided, the database of state incentives, I think that is a very good resource to check into what could be eligible for nonprofits or for municipalities. And I would probably turn this over to Luke as well, because it seems with his aggregation programs, that might be somewhat of benefit to those communities and to those nonprofits as well. So I don't want to put Luke on the spot, but certainly I would recommend looking at the database of state incentives for assistance, and also work with Luke on the aggregation. That could be a savings there if possible.
Yeah, our grant writing team is there for expanded opportunities. So drawing down whether state or federal departments, we're looking for opportunities. So if you have a given project that you're trying to achieve, particularly on municipal infrastructure, we are very eager to talk to you to at least have an initial conversation to see if there's a pathway that we might be already pursuing, or if it requires more creative thinking. That's we live there, and a lot of our member communities are already doing some of that deep level thinking right now. So we're always looking for opportunities for us to use existing resources and find new opportunities for new resources to meet those challenges.
Fantastic. Dale, I didn't know if you had anything to add. Feel free to jump in as well.
Yeah, I can do that. Building on what Randy and Luke have said, for our friend here, I would say you might want to reach out to your local council of governments or regional development authority, Omega or Buckeye Hills. There are a number of them in rural areas. They also work with the Appalachian Regional Commission, or ARC, which might have some of those types of grants and things for nonprofits or community groups to take a look at, with regard to doing stuff on demand side management, energy efficiency, cooperative group buying of infrastructure and things. There's another opportunities there, and take a look at their websites and information too.
Dale, if I could add to that real quick, just a couple that come to mind immediately. Solar United Neighbors is a nonprofit that helps bundle some smaller cooperative buying, also individual buying of solar assets. Another would be the Appalachian Solar Finance Fund. So there's a lot of these groups that are trying to find new pathways for folks to expand the universe of folks who can access renewable energy.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you. And I'm going to have we've posted a link to that property eligibility map into the chat, and we're going to put one in here for the Desire, that database for state incentives for renewables and efficiency. We will post that here in a second too, just to make things easier for everyone.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's see. Okay, here's a good general one for everybody, and it's a good talking point. So, as I mentioned earlier, we shared a lot of information today about renewable energy, and it seems like there's a lot of ways for consumers to get involved. What would you consider some of the easy options? Like, what is, if to dip a toe, like what would be some of those things that people could do to kind of get started with this if they don't know or don't have these opportunities available to them? And I'll let anybody, whoever wants to go first, jump right in.
I'm happy to take first crack at it. So I think at a consumer level, there's a lot of things the EPA and Ohio EPA have great resources. I mean, simple things like upgrading your light bulbs and efficiency. So this is the consumer level. You can do some basic education. But I think if you want to go a little deeper and stronger investments, there are local EV chapters across the state of Ohio that are very eager to show you and often let you ride, if not drive, their vehicles. So I think looking for those community events, looking for opportunities like this, we can expand further. There's a lot of new legislation as it relates to the tax code, enabling things like heat pumps, both for low-income folks and across the spectrum. So I think, I guess, it sounds cheesy, but attending more webinars like this, but looking for those opportunities accordingly. So I think I would look into that, look into some of these other nonprofits we just described and what information sessions they may be able to provide, or groups like Dale who are regularly doing consumer education. So I think there's steps large and small, and I guess education probably the first step, but just learning more and what best fits your budget and your goals and desires.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. And I tell you, building upon what Lucas said, if you're trying to get involved in the process and trying to learn more, yeah, take a look basically at what some of the nonprofit organizations are doing. With Farm Bureau, I do these programs on a county level on a very regular basis. Take a look at the County Farm Bureau website. We do energy briefings there, everything on customer aggregation, questions to ask and things to go into an aggregation contract or talk to an energy service provider, to even taking a look at on-site solar one-on-one, things you need to think about, consider if you want to do an on-site system on your property. I would also take a look at the websites for Green Energy Ohio, Clean Fuels Ohio, the Ohio Energy Project, have a number of education and program resources, easy to use, very customer friendly, especially for those new consumers looking at that. And I would also take a look at, if you want to take a critical first step, take a look at customer choice, take a look at community aggregation, take a look at your utility bill for gas and electric. What does that cost for generation? What does that cost for natural gas supply? What can I do to better control that? Is there a program where I individually, or is there a government aggregation program that is in existence that where I can use that option to better control that portion of my bill? And so there's a number of things there. And yeah, please give me a call and I can give you some more things later down the line.
I'll add my 2 cents in here too. And as a consumer, I think first and foremost, we need to look at our utility bills and understand what is all involved in that utility bill, both kilowatt hours, demand charges, if it's natural gas, what you're consuming. And if you want to lower your utility costs, look at energy efficiency improvements first. And then, once you have those completed, then you look at renewable energy and say, okay, what do I need to have to really offset that lower amount of energy that I'm consuming? So, start with your utility bills first and move from there.
Great. And speaking of energy efficiency, I know we did a session on that earlier in the conference. And again, these are all being recorded. So hopefully you'll go back and look at those. If you have questions about energy efficiency, we'll have those posted on our YouTube channels shortly. And we'll have all of these posted together as a group. So hopefully people go back and reference some of those past recordings from this conference as well. Okay, let's move on a little bit. So Luke, you mentioned the aggregation programs. A question here about, so if a community that's doing this, it sounds like they kind of automatically enroll everybody from a local government. If someone maybe doesn't want to be involved, what should they kind of consider before they exercise the option to exit or opt out of the group? Like, why should they consider it?
Yeah, those are great questions, and there's different features of different programs that may affect your decision. But I would say as a consumer, aggregation provides a really easy solution for folks who wouldn't historically shop for themselves. So it's an alternative default offering versus what the utilities are offering. And again, if folks have been successful, hopefully at a lower rate, not always, but hopefully that's the case. But again, consumers have that choice. So as you're shopping, especially as an individual, if you're looking on, for instance, apples to apples, Energy Choice, I would encourage folks to look for those early termination fees. So if a contract has a fee that's really prohibitive, many of them don't have that at all anymore. Look for variable pricing. So if a price is really great for 1 month, then changes the next month and you're locked in, that's probably not going to meet your needs. Some of the other features, and you can thankfully on the Apples to Apples website filter through these, also have a fixed price per month. So some of them may have a really great rate, but may also have a $10 or $20 flat fee that's attached to it. So you need to look holistically at all those things. So the beauty of aggregation is that it's been vetted by your local government. So opt out in particular, or sometimes opt in, but typically opt out, your local council and parties that have a stake in that have been hopefully active in that process. So things as you're looking at launching a program, I probably should have mentioned earlier, I'd encourage folks to do, is look at things like net metering. Are folks who've already invested in solar able to participate in an aggregation program? So some do, some don't. I think we were the first in the state of Ohio to allow that, but many others have followed, which is great. So I would encourage folks to look for that. So I think being aware of if there's a green product offering, going deep and asking the questions, seeing what that looks like. What does that mean for you? And you may have some follow-up questions for it, or you may be really happy with it. But I think this is for consumers who haven't shopped on their own, It doesn't prohibit anybody from doing that, but it does provide another option for folks who may not have the bandwidth or feel comfortable in the knowledge of shopping for themselves. So again, the council ideally is a partner in that operation and a good program to where they have a lot of input. But I think it is being an informed consumer. But again, if you're going to go on your own, just make sure you're asking the right questions of yourself as you're looking through choices. And you may find a better rate in the ag program. That's great. But just make sure it's meeting your values. You know, if you want to make sure it's a green program, make sure that's included. And again, the other consumer protection questions, stay very vigilant on that as well.
Speaking of the people that kind of go and invest on their own, so like an on-site generation, like a rooftop solar, a couple questions about that. Maybe we can kind of expand on, you know, what do people need to think about and before they look into that. I know I'm personally very interested in some rooftop solar, but like, what do we need to look at? What's the ROI looking like these days? You know, I know I've been in this industry for 15 years, and you know, a lot has changed over time. So can we talk a little bit about? I know we have, you know, a lot of everyone on this is an individual and may be interested, you know, for their homes or their small businesses. What does rooftop solar look like these days? And that for anybody.
Yeah, I could start that. It's interesting because I just got done talking about that here in Cambridge. Questions to think about if you're thinking about investing in your own on-site system, rooftop solar or backyard solar or backyard wind, is remember this: there's no such thing as what you would call an off-the-rack system. You're not going to go to a hardware store or to Walmart or one of the big box stores and find a system, plug it in, and away you go. For a system to work for you, you're going to need to take a look at what you would be calling your load profile. What pattern, what is your usage pattern in different things on how you use energy in the home, the farm, or the business? And in many cases, that is unique as a fingerprint. When it comes to solar, I tell people work with your utility, get your data, take a look at what your usage history is, your load profile, and is there a system that can be installed, designed, worked upon to help you based on your usage history, maximize savings potentials and different things. Batting average is to probably for a lot of residential and small farm, 1 out of every 3 consumers probably has a usage history or a usage pattern or load profile, which would warrant taking a look at investing in an on-site system. And like you say, it's interesting how things have happened over the years, is that these becoming much more efficient. You're looking at a rate of return on investment of 7 to 10 years when it used to be 14 to 16. Also shopping for a particular company to fit your needs, having them come to your home, sitting at your kitchen table, looking at this particular data, reading basically the delivery contracts and different things, what kind of care, maintenance, upkeep, and other programs they can offer long-term with regard to that. I tell people this: you need to have the same reference or frame of mind shopping for an on-site system as you would for buying a new car, buying or adding on to your house, which is what you're doing here, or entering a marriage license. And so think about those things, and we can get more information to you on things to think about.
And if I could add a few more just quick metrics for folks as they're considering it. So this is an investment. The panels themselves typically have a 25-year warranty. They're guaranteed to produce power upwards to 80% or over 80%, 25 years out. So this is a very predictable device. So you want to make sure that your roof is in good shape. So that's a related conversation. There's some great programs at financing a new roof with solar at the same time. Historically, Ohio's had the EcoLink program, provide that resource as an interest buy-down program. There's also consideration of federal tax credits. So if you have the tax appetite, and this may affect your decision how large you want to go with a system, also with your energy profiles Dale just described, but there's a 30% federal tax credit that was just renewed and increased a little bit in recent legislation at the federal level last few years. So looking holistically, and I would echo Dale's comment about making sure that you are looking, if you don't go through a group like Solar United Neighbors where you're getting technical expertise from a larger group, then making sure that you get several quotes. Like any large investment, making sure that you are getting a fair price. Often folks are encouraged to look at a per watt basis. You may get enamored with how many panels are going up or some of the details that may not have an impact materially on what it's providing for you. So often installers will also provide a roof warranty if there's a need for them to have any intrusions into your roof on a traditional shingle home, for instance. But all those kind of great questions and tapping into resources as you make those decisions, that may sound intimidating, but there's a lot of really great resources out there to make an informed decision. But I think at a base level, I'd encourage folks to shop around and get references from the folks and see who's done good work and who folks are satisfied with from a price standpoint. But it definitely can be a great investment financially into a home or business.
Fantastic. Let's see. Anything else you guys want to mention that we haven't gone over yet? Oh, I did get one other question. Dale, I'm going to throw this to you because I feel like you know what this is. And yes, please explain to us first, what is agrovoltaics?
Yeah.
Someone wants to know, would an agrovoltaic project be eligible for any grant programs? But yeah, I want to know what that is first. So please educate us.
Yeah, and I'm sure too that Randy will probably want to talk about this too. I'm getting questions all the time. When you're talking about agrovoltaics, which is a rather new concept and term for folks, is being able to do agricultural food production projects underneath basically a solar array or a solar racking system basically in a field. A lot of farmers are very interested with regard to that. A number of energy service providers, especially at the utility scale, are looking at those things too. A tremendous amount of discussion. I'm talking to a lot of urban and suburban energy consumers who are rather excited with regard to that possibility. And farmers too, but I tell you, we still need to do a lot of collaborative discussion. We need to take a look at, if you're wanting to do this, and when a typical utility scale solar project is measured in the hundreds and short thousands of acres, you're talking here about a larger area. You're talking about a larger operation. You're talking about, also take a look at this. If I'm in corn, wheat, and bean production, and I work in a partnership with a company and we put solar array out through there, what can I produce there? What kind of machinery do I have to have? What kind of logistics? What kind of market is available with regard to distance and different things I could sell into? What kind of products and stuff are going there? It's interesting how energy service providers, how farmers, how farm finance and banking is looking at this, how equipment manufacturers are looking at this, a number of things. The discussion is still rather new, still needs to be done, still needs to be taken a look at. But if we're talking here about using farm ground, even with this type of technology being hosted on it, how can we continue to do that? How can a farmer continue to do agricultural practices? How can they continue to create a profit? How can we continue to see food, fiber, and other resources being produced underneath those solar panels? Welcome to the new frontier, things we need to talk about. Randy, I'm going to put you on the spot too, but I know our folks at USDA are looking at these. Do you see any kind of grants for research and different things? I know Ohio State University has some grants for research and are working with land grant institutions nationwide. Is there anything happening with USDA?
Thanks, Dale. Unfortunately, from the best of my knowledge, I've heard of this being practiced in various locations. I am not up to speed on any of the latest research. Is this something that could possibly be, could the solar array be financed through our Rural Energy for America program? It sure could. I mean, we would have to look at that and take into consideration, is this a good location? Again, are we taking farmland out of production? Is it being used along with, is there still a chance that this land could be used in production? So yeah, those are questions that we would have to address, but certainly it is something that could potentially be financed with our REAP grants and loan guarantees. So I'd be happy to look at a project like that.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. It's interesting. Size, scope, types of production. I know there's a lot of projects happening in the eastern parts of the United States, upstate New York through New England, but those are measured on tens of acres. They're smaller projects. When you're talking about the projects you're seeing here in the Midwest that are in the hundreds to thousands of acres, that's a different type of agricultural production. That's a different type of logistics, use of equipment, design basically of the solar array itself to accommodate turnaround and parking and things for equipment, and those things going forward is going to be huge. Animal husbandry, sheep production is being looked at. A number of things need to be explored, and stay tuned for further research and discussion.
Hey, Luke, I see you kind of put in a comment here to us. Why don't you want to just go ahead and ask Dale your
Yeah, I
question
can ask
live?
directly. Yeah, so Dale, just something we deal with on large scale projects, and just want to discuss the valuation proposition. How does the lease payments for solar compare to traditional lease payments for farmland used in agricultural production?
Good question, because I'll tell you this, without getting into a lot of detail with regard to that, because each of those leases is an individual agreement between a farmer or a landowner and an energy service provider. I'm not an attorney myself or practice law, but we do have a very experienced attorney referral network across the state. I can get you information about the referral network, and you can enlist their help, support, and research. But yeah, Luke, it's interesting. We have a number of farm families taking a look at this. You're taking a look at lease income being above normal agricultural production per acre with regard to that, because of less risk of weather and different things. It's interesting the number of families, because the vast majority of farming operations are 2 to 3 generations, creating a project that benefits grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, children and grandchildren going forward is huge. How do we invest that money or income on one part of the operation dedicated to a renewable energy project in the other parts of our operation? We have a lot of farm families, and I help facilitate those discussions and different things going forward. And many of them have told me over the years, the planning on how we're doing this, the planning on how it's going to benefit 3 or 4 generations, the planning on how we're going to use those resources on our farming operation sometimes are much more complex than negotiating a lease agreement itself. And so for more information and things about that, or some references to our attorney referral network, give us a call and we can help you there. I hope I answered your question, Luke.
No, I think it's great. We get a lot of calls from farmers on a regular basis looking into this, and we obviously refer them on to Dale often, but folks who sees an opportunity for the land, as he just described, to stay in the family. There may be a generation that doesn't want to farm, but maybe the parents are still around, or grandparents, and they would like to see that land stay in the family. So it's become a great resource for them to have another avenue for the land versus selling it for commercial development, or losing it from the family itself. So I think that's a great conversation to be had.
You're correct. It is. It's amazing how different and I've done that. We do what are called kitchen table meetings, and helping folks start that discussion. Besides having an attorney referral network, we also have in our resources a referral network to farm and family planners that can help facilitate those discussions going forward too. Good question.
Yes, and just great discussion overall. Thank you all so very much. We are just about out of time, so we will end the questions now. But if you have submitted a question that we have not answered, again, I will get these to Dale and Randy and Luke and ask them to follow up with you via email. So thank you so much everyone for joining us. Again, the webinar has been recorded. You will receive an email after the webinar with a link to the recording and a link to the session survey. But before I end, I'm going to go over we've got 2 more sessions left. Today's the last day again of our 2023 Virtual Sustainability Conference. Hopefully you have listened to the previous 9, but we've got 2 more left of the 12. Break It Down, a zero waste discussion, and Farming for a Sustainable Future this afternoon. So hopefully you'll sign up and attend those. And then before we end today, I am going to take a moment to talk to you about our Encouraging Environmental Excellence Award Program. So this program has 3 different categories. We recognize Ohio businesses, industry, trade associations, professional organizations, and not-for-profits under our Encouraging Environmental Excellence. We recognize Ohio's K-12 public and private schools under our Encouraging Environmental Excellence in Education, and then local governments under the Encouraging Environmental Excellence in Communities. And these awards go to these entities that are kind of going above and beyond compliance and have outstanding environmental stewardship commitments and practices, and obviously energy, alternative energy, advanced energy, energy efficiency is one of the big criteria. So I just wanted to point that out. If you are doing some of these things and have not looked into getting an award for that, please reach out to us. The online application is open right now and closes on April 30th of 2024. So we would love to recognize you for those efforts. You can learn more at epa.ohio.gov/Ohio E3. And then finally, once you leave, you'll receive a survey. We do value your feedback, would love to, know how we're doing. Let us know if there's anything we can do to further assist you. You'll also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with links to view the recording of today's webinar, a certificate of attendance, and another link to that survey if you don't have a chance to fill it out right now. And with that, we will end this session of Ohio EPA's 2023 Sustainability Conference. We hope you can join us for other conference sessions. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.